Never in the history of video games have I been more intrigued about one specific title. Golem was the first game ever announced for PlayStation VR all the way back in 2015. And since then there's been rumors of it being cancelled, multiple delays, but most intriguing, a complete lack of information about what this game really is or how it plays. For years it's been pure speculation, and now that Golem is actually here, it's nothing like what we expected, which is probably for the best, because as it turns out, Golem is a stellar, open-world exploration game with a focus on sword-to-sword combat. But you'd never guess that from the opening cinematics. Clocking in at a whopping 16 minutes of pure narrative, Golem introduces us to two sisters who are called Dreamers and have the ability to control stone giants called golems with their minds. So the entire conceit of the game is that you're a little girl at home stuck in bed, but looking through the eyes of a golem who can explore outside their otherwise walled-in town for relics. But that's not the first type of golem you'll inhabit. The first is a tiny doll that runs around the floor of your bedroom, down through some underground tunnels, and gradually makes its way to the outside world where you'll control a much larger, more intimidating golem. And it doesn't take long to discover Golem's major and almost tragic downfall. The locomotion controls for the golem are unnatural, and worse, uncomfortable. Using a single move controller, walking is initiated by pulling the trigger and then leaning your head slightly forward or slightly backwards. This in itself isn't the worst thing ever, although it did result in a stiff neck and sore back by the end of my playthrough. What makes this control scheme even tougher to work with is that head turning is mandatory, with no way to turn it off. Golem's world is stunning, and while you're walking slowly from point A to point B, you'll want to look around and admire it, but doing so will cause you to walk in all sorts of unintended directions. And as someone who never gets motion sick in VR, I got really sick playing Golem. You can use the analog stick on a DualShock 4 in conjunction with the move controller, but this somehow made things even worse. Why there isn't an option for a traditional control scheme using two move controllers is beyond me. Fortunately, that's pretty much the extent of the bad news. I persevered and eventually acclimated to the control scheme, overcame my motion sickness, and was rewarded with one of PlayStation VR's best looking games. Golem is beautiful, especially on the Pro, and although the game is mostly sandy brown looking from start to finish, it doesn't matter. The lighting and shadows create stark contrast, and everything has an extremely AAA polished look to it. The orchestration of the soundtrack is incredible and adds a level of emotion that could have easily gone missing, considering that once the opening cutscenes are over, a lot of the story is irrelevant for a majority of the next 8 hours. But what makes Golem really shine is the intensity of the combat. There are a few single-hit enemies scattered around that are fun to destroy, but it's the one-on-one encounters with other golems that'll make or break this game for you. When your opponent attacks, you'll need to defend yourself, then follow up with an attack on the highlighted exposed area. The first few golems you encounter give you the impression that the tutorial never ended, but once the battles start heating up with 3, 4, or 5 attacks in a row before you can even retaliate with a single hit of your own, is exactly when you'll know whether or not you can take on Golem's more difficult enemies. And for the number of times I failed and had to make the exact same run over and over, at no point did I ever feel like giving up. In fact, I found myself coming back with a vengeance. Winning every battle in Golem is totally possible. You'll just need some quick reflexes to do it. But helping you to win each battle and open up new areas of the map are a selection of accessories that are taken off the bodies of defeated golems. Jewels determine your overall health and healing factor. Masks unlock new doors, but it's the weapons themselves that'll help you more than anything else. Every blade has a unique characteristic, whether it be its reach, power, or defensive capabilities, and getting an advanced blade early on makes all the difference in the world. The problem, of course, is that when you die, your equipped weapons die with you. So if you equipped your only flame mask but managed to die before reaching and unlocking the flame door, you'll have to seek out that golem that you got the flame mask from again, and take him down, again. This can be infuriating, but just to reiterate, it never stopped me from trying. Plus, exploring Golem's ravaged city is half the fun, and you'll want to investigate every single corner of the map thoroughly for story glyphs, which are basically short audio logs, collectibles, and when you're fortunate enough to find one, a new weapon. Other than a short break to recover from some motion sickness, I played Golem pretty much non-stop from start to finish in about 8 hours. But the pleasant surprise for me was that it was never the story pushing me forward. Instead, it was the challenge. It has the addiction and deliberate feel of a Souls game, but with a slow pace and combat mechanics all its own. It certainly took a long time for Golem to get here, but this I can assure you, it was absolutely worth the wait.